recording this meeting. As courtesy to the public, will you please identify yourself so your fellow attendees know they're being recorded? Seeing no one, the city of Eastlake is recording this meeting. The legislation proposed, we have legislation number 02-22-01, an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 154, Economic and Community Development Council, Section 1, Establishment, Members, Terms, Powers of the Codified Ordinances of City of Eastlake and declaring an emergency. Comment on this?
On this specific one?
Yes. This is sponsored by council.
Okay.
What are those changes exactly? Just for, this was the one where we narrowed the purpose to more focus on civic and community, but the bigger issue was adding in the ad hoc members. Right. We originally proposed 5 and 10, and then John and I went back and forth with this, so we just leave it open-ended. They can appoint as many ad hoc members as they want. Talked to Angela a little bit about it, just to make sure they pass it by motion, but put a term expiration, maybe just make every term and same time every year, at the end of the year. Chris had a question earlier about something she wanted, but
it was
that's not in this version.
Yeah, it was just clarification, because when we were in the ordinance committee, we were discussing the issue with having the council liaison not be chair. And that was something that was brought up in the ordinance committee. And then
Yeah, we discussed not having that the chairperson should not be an elected official.
right.
Not just the council liaison, but any elected official.
Right.
Should be a member of the committee.
And then that just wasn't reflected in here.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have, you don't designate a chair now,
They choose themselves.
Yeah, okay, it's not like our typical committee would. So it's by a vote of the committee, as far as who the chair would be.
Right. But just not an elected official is the issue.
And that's not.
That's
I
not
didn't make
in
that.
there.
I understand,
Yeah.
right, that's not
Right.
change, so. If that's what direction council wishes to go, then we would put this on first reading, and then have the legislation, and then vote on it at the next council meeting.
So can I make a comment? Is that okay?
Certainly can.
So I understand partially why you're saying, at first it wasn't any elected official. So I do appreciate that it's now any elected official, but I still don't agree or understand it, because if it's coming from a place that you're afraid somebody's going to steer towards self-promotion or self-gain, I don't agree with it, because the reality is somebody in the committee itself, if you have a business, they could become chair and push it toward a business. Or if somebody is a part of a club or a group, I mean, the reality is abuse is abuse. Any person could technically walk in, become chair, and truly steer it to them. So I guess if it's not personal and it's about making sure the committee goes to where the council is, my thought is, why isn't it we're not putting wording that events, have to be in Eastlake, or if there's fundraising has to benefit in Eastlake clubs or 501c3, and limiting, I feel like you're limiting one person, but it's really not, it's that problem, and maybe I'm not understanding what the issue is. And just for clarity, I'm the chair, so y'all know where I'm coming from, but I am trying to remove myself. I tried to look at this objectively and step out, but I'm still having a problem with it, because I don't see how anyone else could use it, and why are instead just making more guideline as to how the committee's going to run, who the committee's going to benefit. Events need to be in Eastlake, period. Or it's just my personal thought. But I think that if it's truly for that purpose, I would feel like guidelines would be more of a safeguard than just saying this person can't be it. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I hear what you're saying. I think for me, and I'll just speak for me since I brought up the issue, other committees that we have in the city are, there's council people that are put as the chair, and then we all serve on committees. But ECDC doesn't really fall under a purview of specifically a committee like finance or anything like that. Much like the port, we have a liaison, but he would not be the chair of that committee. They're kind of the same thing. I understand what you're saying about a business, but an elected official is different because as we've seen in the past, it can become a function of one's political campaign and utilizing it for that. And I think that tendency for abuse is what I was concerned about. I won't speak for anyone else.
And I think based on your other, I would like to think that, and I'm speaking personally, but I would like to think that being that you're an East Lake community, that your focus would be East Lake oriented events. And not necessarily, I mean, I don't, if you were doing some type of fundraising or something like that, I don't necessarily think you need to limit yourself to East Lake. Obviously, if you could find sponsors for things outside the city, but just my thoughts would be that I would think you would be an East Lake oriented committee.
And you had a good point before, Angela, where you had said in the past, Willoughby has the ability to have, they've got records and got all these things. So when it started becoming East Lake, ECDC, and then we were involved in Willoughby and then Willowick and then branching out, it's a lot on the committee too.
I'm sorry, I don't agree. I think I don't agree.
Understand? Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on. Legislation number 02-22-02, an ordinance to reappropriate for the expenses of the city of East Lake, state of Ohio, for the period beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency. This is the budget. We're going to be placing it on first reading. Ms. Chanel, do you have anything else to add?
That is the budget that we discussed in the finance committee meetings with that one adjustment that I explained. And, yes, we call it a reappropriation because we're going to do a temporary one in order to do paychecks in January, but this is what we call the budget.
Any questions for Ms. Chanel? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to legislation number 02-22-03, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and director of finance to enter into a contract with Ohio Paving and Construction, the most responsible and lowest and best bidder for the Erie Road CRWP-GI parking lot project for the base bid amount and alternate for the total amount of $182,223.56 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Mayor?
This was through the GPT group that we hired before, for the permeable payments, pavements, the revetment of the stabilization of the banks and some different things there. So out of the 4 people that bid, they were at the lowest and best bid. GPT suggests that's the bid we take, and we looked at it, and that's what we believe we should accept all.
And this is a grant.
Are there any questions for the mayor or Ms. Chanel? Okay. All right. We don't have any legislation pending. We have nothing under miscellaneous. So we will adjourn this council of the whole committee meeting at 7:09 p.m. All right. I'm calling the regular council meeting of February 22nd, 2022 to order at 7:09 p.m. Mr. Stockton, will you listen to the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Katsounis?
Here.
Mr. Spotted?
Here.
Ms. Kraniak?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt? Here. Mr. Overstreet?
Here.
Mr. Summit?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the regular council meeting of February 22nd, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Spotted?
Yes.
Mr. Katsounis?
Yes.
Ms. Kraniak?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Overstreet?
Yes.
Mr. Semick?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, the motion's carried, the agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 8th, 2022? Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Semick?
Yes.
Mr. Katsounis?
Yes.
Ms. Kreniak?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Overstreet?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, the motion's carried, the minutes are approved. We have some pending finance committee meetings, minutes. Understanding there were some technical difficulties, so, we have to have those, sometime in the near future. Our next scheduled council as a whole committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. with the regular council meeting immediately following the adjournment of the council as a whole committee meeting. We'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Sun, did we have Port Authority already, or is that this week? We did. Port Authority meeting, Mr. Sun?
So we had a meeting on 2/17, we introduced Mario Scandal, and I think in the notes it's Scanlon. So it's during the court meeting, he said spelled Skandal.
This is the last name, his name was Machine Shops.
Okay, so I was wondering what that was. Just over that, the PO was cut for them for 2021, which they got back and informed them that we budgeted the same amount for 2022. Talked a little bit about the new lease agreement, nothing really in detail, because I wasn't really into any of it, so I don't know if you want to go into any of that after my report. Twin Rock Watershed, went over their high five program, where they have river monitors on bridges. So she was supposed to give me the link for those, I was gonna share that with everybody. I haven't done that yet, though. Also was shared that, they spent roughly $90,000 for the dredging of the river last year, and then a quarter of that came from the kayak rentals, for about $36,000. Also that, the Parkers were approached by, Fairport to come there. To get that. They also talked about, giving me the port's budget to share with the rest of the council, and if you wanted, Nick Moore would also come to speak to council about the budget. And that concludes my question.
The only thing I'll add, John and I are meeting Thursday morning at 10, to go over what the port sent us and what the Salmon Club sent us, which is, I would say, a little bit apart. We are probably gonna end up taking over the building since we own it, and hopefully that ends some of the problems between the port and the Salmon Club. And then, I told them we would get back to them. We're gonna look at a few things. I already have one of the issues taken care of, which will be the waste garbage. So we'll have our new contract with Republic, we will put a garbage container down there, and then we will take care of all the other things. But, at the end of the day, if we're gonna take it over and no one wants to pay for anything, we're gonna figure out some sort of either, lease with the port and or the Salmon Club for some sort of payment. What I brought up is in their next, when they put their bid out for the, kayakers, that they have in there that they're gonna take over some of the things, but because basically what the port has said is, to me at least, some of the things are unreasonable, and we will, work on what we will send back, so that's where we're at.
Any other questions for Mr. Sun? Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Sun. Ms. Schmidt, I believe you had an ECDC meeting.
We did. So we had a ECDC meeting this evening, just a couple, it was a long meeting, but a couple highlights of what we're working on for, March and April are, we're updating the, directory listings of the restaurant guide and the, East Lake, club. We're creating the East Lake clubs and activities, so list all community clubs and activities. And we're gonna be updating the restaurant guide that we currently have, as well as the activity listing that we currently have, and that lists like gyms, and kind of, active facilities within the community, like the rock climbing and stuff. We feel like that, benefits the businesses as well as the community because it gives them opportunity. With that, we will also look, once we get those updated, we're gonna look on creating QR codes and, getting, better graphics, so they look a little bit more professionally done. So those, our goal is to have those done by the end of, for our next meeting. We're gonna be assisting with the May 7th, the community cleanup. Judy will let us know, what we need to assist with, but she did, mention that she was gonna have us, contact local groups. So a benefit of us working on our listing of not only providing the community with groups, it'll make it easier when we have to recruit these groups and clubs to help with events like this. So that is, we're gonna assist with that with however she uses the help. We're trying to make it more of a campaign. So, one thing we would like to do, the committee would like to do, we're researching it and we'll present it to you next, meeting, or next month, is, we wanna kind of take what Wickliffe is doing and do, where they do the Wickliffe Yard of the Year. So we would have 4 yards, one in each ward, and they would get a, sign, we would try to get it, picture in the newspaper and a certificate. And then, we would have one business, there's a bright spot business, and so then one business would be able to, we would choose a business, to earn that. We're hoping that promoting this not only is just like helping with the cleanup that day, but it's now becoming a campaign, and it's encouraging people to, you know, get out and be active in the community and keep their yards clean with the chance of trying to win this. So we are working on that. Sue Foss, said that she would start taking notes for our meetings, so that was a really, good thing. The other thing that we're working on for this upcoming meeting is we are restructuring the Good Neighbors Awards. So we have the different awards for community impact and, for the Kids Award. So we're just gonna be kind of restructuring those, to, minimize some of the awards and, make it a little bit more, kind of special, but not as many. We won't be doing as many awards, but, make it more impactful. And we're gonna be honoring, people who are turning 100 years old is one that we would like to add, as well as people who've been in our community for over 50 years. So we're gonna be incorporating those. And then we are also going to be incorporating, kids one, and, we're kind of playing with the wording for all of this, but it's like, it's gonna bring back the litter bug, the East Lake, well, I have a picture if any of you guys aren't aware of it, but we're gonna kind of bring back the litter bug, and, that award will go to children that are caught cleaning, but we're gonna do more of those awards because we feel like rewarding them would have a bigger impact, but that's only for our younger kids in the community. We have other stuff going on, but that's really what our focus is on through, March and April. If anyone has any questions.
Anyone have any questions for us here? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner, appreciate it. We move on to recognition of the public. Is there anyone who wishes to address council? All right. Seeing none, I won't read the statement.
We did have a finance committee meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, apologize, Jason, go ahead.
That's fine. Ms. Chanel went over all the, city expenditures, and the committee moved forward the proposed budget, and that is on the agenda tonight. It's 2/22/02, and it is for first reading tonight.
Any questions for Councilman Casson? Ms. Grenier?
I actually didn't have a question, sorry.
Oh, no.
I was gonna give the WPCC update, we went today.
I think you'll have a meeting scheduled next week.
I do.
We'll look forward to your report at the next council meeting. Okay, we'll move on to, legislation proposed. Will the clerk please read legislation number 02-22-01?
An ordinance to repeal and replace chapter 154, Economic and Community Development Council, section .01, establishment numbers, terms, powers of the codified ordinances of the city of East Lake and declaring an emergency.
I'm gonna go ahead and we'll put this on first reading so we can and we can discuss this at the next council meeting. Will the clerk please read legislation number 02-22-02?
An ordinance to reappropriate for the expenses of the city of Eastlake, state of Ohio, for the period beginning January 1st, 2022, ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
This item will also be placed on first reading. Will the clerk please read legislation number 02-22-03?
A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and director of finance to enter into a contract with Ohio Paving and Construction, the most responsible and lowest and best bidder for the Erie Road CRWP-BI parking lot project for the base bid amount and alternate for the total amount of $182,223.56 and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to suspend the rule requiring separate readings and readings in full? Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Spotted. Mr. Semick.
Yes.
Mr. Katsounik.
Yes.
Ms. Kraniak.
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Overstreet.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes. Is there a motion to adopt? Is there a second?
Yes.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Spotted.
Yes.
Mr. Semick.
Yes.
Mr. Katsounik.
Yes.
Ms. Kraniak.
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Overstreet.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes, and the motion carried, the legislation is adopted. We have no unfinished business, we have no new business. We'll move on to administrative reports. Our first report is from our mayor and safety director, Dennis Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to this evening's meeting. Sorry that we had to change it to here. They should be done in the council chambers by the end of the week with the painting and everything that's done. We're also, putting new LED lighting in there, just, more energy efficient and a lot brighter so we can see your smiling faces, especially you. Administration is, oh, it's not taped, I know, MOR, I noted it, MOR, you noted it too. So, I talked to Randy afterwards. Yeah. So, we had a pre-construction meeting, for East Island water main improvements, thank goodness that'll finally start. The original ending date was supposed to be September 17th of last year, with the shortage of materials. All the water lines finally came in, and the, fire hydrants, so that should be a 2-week project. They should be starting here shortly. The first house, at Washington Development, will be starting, this week. I think they are obviously weather dependent on the footers and everything they were gonna put in. Drove by there today, so looks like they put a few things in, but not a ton. Seeing the news media must have been bored this last few days, so obviously on social media and the news it was about potholes. So we, especially today, got plenty of calls about potholes. So the city's position on vehicles being damaged by potholes is that we will, they can go and make a police report at the city for their insurance company. We do not pay for any damages. Our liabilities are, once we are told about a pothole and we go fix it, that's what we, by law, we have to do. So we've been doing that with the calls. Obviously, we've had people out last week, this week with the cold patch. Unfortunately, the cold patch is in. We get another snow and a plow is out. So that's the city's position on the potholes. We also today had our first TLCI on the Vine Street corridor with Lake Tran, City of Willoughby, City of Woolwich, and us. Stakeholders that I have put on the committee for the city is Deb Casper from Dollar Bank, Todd Atkins from Evan Easy Pole, Kelly Bulbis, which owns 3 subways in our city, Jen Yorko, the GM, my assistant Judy, and myself. So we had the first meeting today, went pretty well. The meeting for the residents will be March 9th, and everyone else, and I'll send you that information. March 9th from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Willoughby Senior Center. They're going to send us a flyer out in the next couple of days. I'll get that to everyone. And we will try to we would like to get obviously our residents' inputs at that meeting, so hopefully some will show up for that. Easter egg, hunt will be at the stadium on April 9th. We had the women's club in and some other volunteers today, and they stuffed 2,500 eggs today out of the 10,000. They're hopefully gonna be done stuffing the 10,000 eggs by the end of the week. Next few weeks also, in the mail, everyone should get the, magnet that has all our, department phone numbers on and any critical numbers for the city, for the council, so that should be there. And so that concludes my report today. I'm open for questions.
Excuse me, are there any questions for the mayor? Ms. Schmidt?
You said it's the Willoughby Senior Center, and it was March 9th, and it was
6:30 to 8:30,
And then Easter hunt was,
April 9th.
you know the time for that, yeah?
We don't have a time set up
Is
yet.
that what they can?
Yes. It'll probably be in the morning. We're just trying to figure out, Captain's opening day is April 12th, so, they're still doing some stuff on the field. The lights should be, a couple of poles showed up, so the lights should be in by the end of March, supposedly a 2-week project. Like I said, Captain's opening day is April 12th. And then I'm gonna meet with the commissioners again, hopefully by the end of the week, to discuss some of the other improvements that we are looking for the stadium also.
Are there any other questions for the mayor? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll move on to our finance director, Caroline Jindal.
Thank you. The state of Ohio has a, branch under the auditor's office called Local Government Services. And those people are the ones that come out to help us, with a formal report of our December 31st figures, our year end, in order to make it compliant with all government accounting rules and regulations. And so they, actually started showing up today, first time in 2 years, you know, everything's not been the same. But this year they showed up and they started, we'll do the work to do our year-end closing, and that's about it.
Any questions for Ms. Jindal? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Jindal. And we'll move on to our law director, Randy Clammer.
Just that, legal opinion that I gave you on the effect of the 155 change. Other than that, on this ECEC, kind of put the law director in the middle of, do we want to make this change, or am I not making this change? And ideally, you just take a vote on, we want to make that change, and that's why I know whether I'm tweaking it a little bit to indicate that the ECEC shall not designate an elected official as the chair, if I understand.
I mean, that's what we originally talked about and discussed.
Yeah, I remember the discussion, I didn't remember the vote.
That's hard to.
I don't remember the opposition to that.
Maybe that should be separate legislation from the other, because if everybody's basically in agreement on one part but not the other, you probably want those.
That was discussed in ordinance, and it passed through ordinance.
Right.
So now, should be drawn up, and then the rest of the council has the opportunity to vote on it.
Yeah.
You know, they can always vote, you can always vote no. You don't have to, I mean, I'm not required to approve it.
But it's all or nothing is the problem. If you separate it out,
At his point, if you separate out, you can pass one, and then it could be a vote no on the other, at least you're passing the ad hoc part. I didn't remember the vote one way or the other on it, I remember the ad hoc part was important, I don't remember the.
They were both discussed and they agreed to move them both forward, but whatever council wishes to do.
Oh, we do two, so, I mean.
This is my opinion. Why would you have two ordinances?
Why would you
I agree.
Well, it'd be two changes.
I've been trying to stay quiet.
We're-
I mean, two changes to the ordinance.
I would like to think we try to keep this as simple as possible.
No,
We pass things all the time, but we don't have choices, we do it with the
That's
budget.
what we discussed in ordinance, and that's what got moved forward.
yeah, I'll
It
leave
should
it
be.
there. I'll leave it
Okay,
there. That's it.
any questions for Mr. Clammer? Okay, anything else? Anybody? All right. Majority of this council meeting at 7:30 PM.